The LID, or the Lake Improvement District, it's a geographical area that encompasses the Chisago lakes here. It's delineated or defined by the watershed boundaries. We have a whole bunch of different types of lakes. We have big lakes, smaller lakes, everything from kind of deeper, clear lakes to shallow, more eutrophic lakes, wetlands, all sorts of different water resources. So it's a taxing authority. We levy a tax on the folks that live in the Lake Improvement District, and it's a very small tax, on average $30 to $40 per household in the LID, and that money goes to help fund projects, habitat projects, water quality, things of the like. The LID was formed in the mid-1980s after a series of high water years, and the LID was originally formed to help facilitate the development of the channel and weir network within the LID that moves water throughout the system in an attempt to mitigate flood risk throughout the LID. We have a lot of lakes and rivers here, so that water moves throughout the lakes, and all of these lakes for the most part are developed with residential houses. So we have a series of weirs, and a weir is basically a dam. And these dams are the links or the control points in a series of channels and interconnectedness throughout the whole LID. So the channel and weir system really starts with South Center Lake, and from there the water flows up through North Center, through a channel over to North Lindstrom, and then back down to South Lindstrom, over to Chisago, and then through a nice channel system empties into Green Lake. And at that outlet point between the channel from Chisago to Green, there's a weir. This is a control point where we can manipulate how much water flows or doesn't flow at that point. The outlet of the channel system is on Lake Ellen, where there's another control point where we can manipulate flow there as well. So South Center, North Center flows through the Chisago lakes into Green, and then out through the north end of the watershed into the Sunrise River, eventually dumping into the St. Croix. So for many years, the Lake Improvement District has been monitoring the levels of the lakes around here. Staff monitors, I think, 22 sites now this year, and we have staff gauges throughout the LID. A staff gauge is simply just a big ruler that is set on a post in the lake, and that water level fluctuates up and down that ruler. These rulers are benchmarked by a surveyor, so we know exactly where they are in relation to the water level, and so we build that trend. We have volunteers who allow us to put staff gauges out on their private property, and we'll go out and monitor that once a week and submit that information to the state as well as our local partners. Locally here, we use those water levels as decision points for opening or closing the weirs. When things get to a certain point, we have to let some water out of the system. And it's an important thing to recognize that the weirs here are not meant to hold back water and fill up the lakes, but the weirs are really meant as a tool to move water throughout the system safely and efficiently. And it's all tied to a channel and weir maintenance plan. This is a real plan. It's a real document. It's an engineered plan, and it's very rigid in how we have to operate the weirs, at what levels of water we have to open or close the weirs. So lake levels, all of that information goes into those decision-making processes, as well as there's a recreational aspect too with slow no wake. When things are over the ordinary high water mark for a series of days, we will institute slow no wake ordinances on the lakes. Everybody's perception of what the ideal water level should be or is different for many different reasons. It depends on when they move to the area or if they've been here a long time. Many times that perception of where the lake should be is formed from where the lake was the day they moved into their house, and we get a lot of questions and a lot of comments on, well, we think the lake is a little high, we think the lake is a little low, what can you do about it? And we always remind people that we have a channel and weir operation and maintenance plan that dictates, based on water levels, when we open and close the weirs. So these weirs are not designed to, we don't shut them to fill up the lakes, but we have a very strict set of water levels that we kind of live by for opening and closing the weirs. So. The channel and weir system is designed to move water throughout the system safely and efficiently. It was designed to mitigate the flood risk throughout the lakes area here. But it's important that it's not an end-all be-all. There are some, if your property is at or below the ordinary high water mark, or if you're in just kind of a flood-prone area, you still have some risk. But there's some things that individual property owners can do to reduce that risk or mitigate that risk. So understanding how the water moves on your property, clogging or unclogging or any debris, removing debris from drainages, from storm drains, removing equipment or anything that can't get wet from those low-lying areas, all stuff that you can do to kind of mitigate your flood risk. One of the concerns we hear is that folks are concerned that the weirs, if opened or managed incorrectly, will drain the lakes. And that's a valid concern, but the weirs are built in a way where water only flows in when it's at a certain point. So there's a wall, and then the outlet structure is below that wall. So water has to get high enough up that wall to flow over. So once water goes below the top of the wall, which is at the ordinary high water mark, so once water is below that ordinary high water mark, no water is leaving the system. So one of the questions we also get are from folks that don't live on the lakes but are still in the lid and still pay lid taxes. Hey, I'm not on a lake, why am I paying lid tax? Well, the lid does a lot of good things for the whole watershed. Working with water quality, doing habitat projects goes beyond just the lakes. So we might be out cleaning up a gully erosion or a washout in a field that's miles and miles away from the lakes. We're treating that water throughout the whole watershed, as well as making these lakes an inviting place to come recreate. A lot of people come to the Chisago Lakes area to recreate and fish and kayak and canoe and boat. So really keeping up that resource. It's a community resource. It's not just for the folks that live on the lakes. Water quality means different things to different people. The general definition is it fishable, drinkable, or swimmable? In the lid, there's a lot of time and money, staff time, volunteer time on habitat projects, water quality projects, that have been done over the years. Rain gardens, buffer strips, cleaning storm drains, a lot of agricultural BMPs. And in order to evaluate the efficacy of those projects and see how our dollars are being spent, if those dollars are actually making a difference, we go out and we take water quality samples. We sample on all of the big lakes and many of the smaller lakes throughout the lid. Staff takes water quality samples. We also work with volunteers that go out and do samples, and temperature readings and water clarity readings, and all of that information is sent back to us here. And we compile that data set throughout the summer and add that to our long-running trend of water quality data. And that really helps paint the picture of if these water quality trends are improving, or if we see a decline in water quality on a specific lake or an area. That might point the way to some more funds or some more attention being spent in that area to address certain problems. The lid, the Lake Improvement District, is more than just the lakes. We're a whole geographical area, so we encompass residential stuff, commercial areas, agricultural areas, and we work with the Chisago County Soil and Water District to we cost share projects that they design to really treat the water where it is before it gets into the lakes, and that's where we're going to see the best bang for the buck as far as improving water quality. So gully erosion, agricultural runoff control, commercial runoff control, or sites like that. And we keep a close eye on invasive species, aquatic invasive species. We spend a lot of time monitoring lakes and our waterways and wetlands for new invasive species, and also tracking the growth and kind of disbursement of the existing AIS that we have here throughout the lid. We work with the Chisago County Water Resources Department they have watercraft inspectors throughout the boat landings in the lid, and so we check the boats going in and out of the water, trying to keep any AIS from getting in, but also really trying to keep any AIS from getting out. We have 4 lake associations that really do a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to managing the invasive species on the lakes. They go out and they do surveys or delineations. They figure out where those invasive species are. And I would really encourage folks, if not already, to at least learn about their lake associations and what they do, and get involved if you can. Since you don't even have to be on a lake to make a difference in water quality. Keeping storm drains clear in front of your house. All of that organic debris eventually makes its way to the lake and enhances algae blooms. So if we can keep those storm drains clear, installing rain gardens, even just planting more, more native vegetation, buffer strips, things like that, instead of just that green manicured lawn all the way down to the lake, all of that really helps. So one really cool success story that we have in the lid that we're very proud of is the delisting of North and South Center lakes. North and South Center lakes were listed impaired for phosphorus impairments, and phosphorus is often that nutrient that used to be in fertilizers that really accelerates algae growth, makes these lakes green and kind of scummy. So through a series of projects, habitat projects around the lake throughout the watershed to treat that water in place, we were able to reduce the amount of phosphorus in North and South Center lakes, leading to the delisting, the removal of the impaired water status, which is a big deal. Hardly any lakes in the state can claim that, so we're very proud of that.